gonna start tonight. Forever's gonna start tonight. Once upon a time I was falling in love, but now I'm only falling apart. There's nothing I can do. A total eclipse of the heart. Once upon a time there was light in my life, but now there's only love in the dark. Nothing I can say, a total eclipse of the heart.
Ooh. Jess is gonna be so jealous.
Let's quieten down that music just for a
it's
second.
getting to the good bit, AJ. Adam, don't touch that dial.
Play the song. Yeah.
I feel like people need context pretty soon, dude. They're gonna stop listening.
This is your new cop option intro song.
This is a new cop option intro song. Bright eyes,
Yeah, starting the podcast with like a
turn around.
massive instrumental.
Bright eyes.
Turn around, bright eyes. It's the best part of the song. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little.
All right, thank you very much.
Should we do a? This is more of a behind the scenes thing, but should we do a sync clap to begin with? Okay. Should we time it in any kind of way to make it? Okay.
That's good.
So
Screw
we'll go
you,
3,
future.
2, 1, and then clap.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
I'd knock the microphone.
You'll find it. It's fine.
That's fine. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Cult Publisher Podcast. But I need to be articulate. That's crucial. Welcome to a very special episode of the Cult Publisher Podcast. My name is Alexander Jones, but you're my friend, so you can call me AJ. What's your name? Man sitting across the table from me.
My name's Richard. I was just pulling the curtains to give less reverb.
Yep.
You know.
This is a podcast where traditionally, and we're not. It's not like we're not keeping in tradition with that right now. There's a lot of explaining I've got to do right that I don't think is. You just stick with me. This is a podcast where we watch a different film franchise every fortnight. Would you agree, Richard?
Yeah.
Would you say that's an astute description?
Yeah.
That's what we do? I'm not being dishonest by saying we watch a franchise every fortnight.
AJ, you're being very honest. Now, can I just say?
Yes.
What are we doing differently this week?
Okay.
Other than your current state of intoxication, what else are we doing differently?
We also have a very small but
No,
significant
something else.
live audience.
Something else. Technically.
Technically, we are recording on two different laptops.
Yes. I can see your voice barely registering on mine. Is that going to be a problem for you when you edit it?
Nah, man, I'm gonna be.
You're sorted out?
I'm gonna be so good with editing it.
Okay.
Okay, so
So now go to the other things that are different.
okay, one thing that's different. We have a 3-person live studio audience. And what that means is that we thought it'd be more fun to do this with a couple pals.
Why?
Because I feel like, and I'll get to this in a second, when you're as drunk as we are, if you feel like you got to perform, you and me, would you agree we're both attention seekers?
Yes.
When you've got people around, you're creating content for them. You're creating.
AJ, I'm an attention seeker when I'm alone in my bed.
Me too. And we got to campaign for their attention. We got to create something that they're going to want to listen to, even though they're listening to it now. So we've got some friends here. Those friends include our good friend Adam, who's been on the podcast before. His girlfriend Holly, but though that's not what defines her as a person. She's also our friend.
Thank you.
And then Mel as well, who's kind of late to the game in terms of my interpretation of these people in my life. But she's still here, and she's a good friend, and I really appreciate you being here, Mel.
And what are they doing to keep themselves entertained rather than listen to our podcast?
Okay,
Well, it involves listening to the podcast.
Like us, they are in various stages of inebriation. Would you agree, loyal live audience?
Yeah.
We've all been drinking, and I'll get to why we've been drinking in just a second. Just to be special, they not us, we're not as masturbatory as this, but they have actually created the official Cult Popture podcast drinking game.
And I've got a copy of it here in front of me as well.
You do?
Yeah.
Do you want to read out the rules of their fish cult pop
All
show?
right. So if you want to play along at home, this works for any episode of the show, not just this one specifically.
Yeah, that's important. That's actually really important.
So a fish cult pop show podcast drinking game.
Yes.
Now make sure you don't put an I before the N in drinking. Oh, sorry, the second N, and don't put a G at the end of it either.
Okay.
So you need to take a drink whenever there's a mic bump.
There was a bump. Guys, you better take a drink.
Anytime there's a 9/11 reference.
9/11 is very important to the history of cinema. It actually changed, probably more TV than cinema. Actually changed a lot of the ways that we talk about things. A lot. Lilo and Stitch is a fantastic. Thank you, Adam. Lilo and Stitch is a great example of that was more something that was changed. But I think thematically, shows like Millennium, shows like The X-Files, changed a lot because of 9/11. Shows like The X-Files actually stopped airing because of things like 9/11 because the government at that stage in 2001,
And also, anytime AJ giggles,
they wanted to trust themselves. They wanted to trust their government.
and I feel like AJ does this a lot more as well. But anytime there's a Beethoven mention,
so this is a podcast where we talk about franchises. One of those franchises includes the Beethoven podcast. All these drinking rules are going to be in the description below as well.
or we'll just post them on the page.
Yeah,
Might post a photo of Holly's beautifully drawn.
Yeah, it's actually really nice. Thank you. Holly.
Except someone's appears to have spilled a drink on it, and some of it's around.
I don't think it was me, but let's just say it was me.
Anytime Brent from Texas gets mentioned.
Brent, I hope you're listening to this one, dude. This is this entire podcast, all of Cult Popture, is for not necessarily like you as an individual, but you as a symbol.
idea of you.
The idea of you is that the idea of connecting with people we don't know personally, because that means so much to us. And Brent, I love that you've brought other people to this podcast.
There's also in quotation marks, "Hey guys."
I don't know what that one means. That one was suggested. I don't think we say "Hey guys" that much, but maybe we do.
Well, at the start of every podcast.
Hey guys, welcome to the Cult Popture podcast.
Any unexpected gas that usually tends to come from me.
That is referring to, of course, our often we drink drinks on this podcast.
I'm drinking water to sober up a little bit.
I've had like 18 shots of
okay, AJ's
whiskey.
trying to sound cool because we'll get to.
I did a shot just before
we'll
the
get in a
podcast.
second why one of the reasons
It's
we're doing
important.
this
I'm not just getting drunk for no reason.
anytime a joke needs explained, so we've done that already.
This happens a lot. Yeah.
A fan comment mention. Brent Taylor again.
So that
often.
Brent or David Brown.
Phonetic recital of the theme song.
Bow mama nama nama. Bow mama nama nama.
And when the next franchise only has 2 films.
Yeah, so that happens to us. Hasn't happened for a while. I mean, we haven't been on Film Franchise Fortnights for a while.
Yeah,
but
we did two film franchises.
There was a while where all we had was
2 films.
films.
Well, one film that got split into 2. Anyway, we need to move this along. So take a shot whenever it is clarified that the word media is in the email address, and when the next franchise has 10 plus films.
So that's different. That's different from. Man, my friends are so good to me, man.
Yeah, they just brought you drinks
just brought me a drink
coasters
and
so
a
that you
coaster.
don't sound like a fucking idiot.
Adam, come say hi. Come say hi under the microphone, Adam.
Hello. I gave you the coaster because I thought it might sound better when you put your drink down on the
Yeah, when you
for
slam
sure,
your fucking drink down, AJ.
Adam also helped us get the microphone sorted.
Right.
I've been told to read out the description on my coaster. Do you mind if we take a brief aside?
All right, and then we'll finish the. I'll read out the finish a drink category.
So my coaster has a very charming looking man on holding what I would assume would be a glass of maybe whiskey or tequila, and written on the coaster.
Those are 2 very different drinks.
It's a brown. It's
Yeah,
a
they
brown.
look very different.
What does tequila look like?
It's clear.
Okay, this is a brown drink.
Yeah,
Scotch, Scotch maybe.
Scotch, brandy, rum, whiskey.
I'm not big.
I'll
I'm not a
accept.
big drinker. This is the drunkest I've ever been. On the coaster are these words. I'm not an alcoholic. Alcoholics go to meetings. I'm a drunk. We go to parties.
All right. And you can hear the crowd laughing at the joke they suggested was read out. So to finish off the Cult Popture, the official Cult Popture podcast drinking game, finish your drink whenever the last episode is mentioned. You got a full explanation of that last Film Franchise Fortnights episode, so go back and listen to that. Maybe you'll hear it one day.
Maybe you'll pay $1,000 and listen to the last episode.
Whenever
that counts. You better finish your drinks, everybody.
Whenever a new segment begins,
such as continue the franchise, or
we talk about titles a lot.
We talk about titles
or
a lot.
franchise roulette,
which we're going to do all 3.
Yeah. we haven't even explained the concept of the podcast or what we're doing yet.
We watched the film shows.
I feel like we're gonna record an intro, so people are gonna ignore my comment. There's a reference to a past episode which we've already done several times. AJ or Richard throw each other under the bus, which we do a lot.
I want to tell you, Brent Taylor. That's a reference. To
And
Brent
also,
Taylor.
sorry, let me just finish. The last one is the next franchise is a shitty one. Holly, I'll give that back to you so that you can look after. Yeah.
We're recording. We can't take shots right now.
Yeah, so you guys can look after that and keep tabs on us.
Brent, let me tell you that there is a lot. Wait, what one was it? What was the second to last one that I was going to?
It was AJ and Richard throw each other under the bus.
Okay, that happens quite a lot on this podcast, and to the point where often we actually just cut it out. We cut it out of the editing. There have been lines we've said that we just have gone in post-production being like, that's probably not appropriate, and we've cut it out. Brent, I want you to know that's for you too.
AJ, okay. What is this podcast?
This is a podcast. My name's AJ. This is Richard. This is a podcast where we watch and discuss a different film franchise every fortnight. And we've done such franchises. I'm trying to get our friends to drink here. We've done such franchises as Beethoven. We've done such franchises as The Land Before Time. These feel like the most significant ones in our heritage. Don't say that. I'm actually going to cut that out. Or I might bleep it so people can hear me saying.
I'm going to cut that out.
Yeah. But this episode, as it is the first film franchise Fortnights for 2018, I know you said 2017, but it's not. It's 2018. We are going to review a little trilogy, a wee trill,
hidden gem,
called The Hangover.
And to make this a special episode, what have we done and why?
We've got fucking drunk, dude. We got drunk because The Hangover is about a bunch of guys who get hangovers after benders.
So, on a personal note,
please explain.
In 2016. I developed somewhat of a drinking problem. And often my nights would be me sitting at home alone, watching Watch Mojo and drinking.
Top 10 plot twists in movies. Spoilers. What are the spoilers for? You'll find out once they're spoiled.
Then my work Christmas party, I got blackout drunk and I woke up in the morning. I didn't have my phone on me. I remembered to take my contacts out for some reason. And,
that's important.
And I was...
I remember to take my medication for my heartbeat.
And I was
it's a similar sort of thing. We remember these sort of things.
And I was like, you know what? I don't remember the last time I had fun specifically because I was drunk. So I was like, I'm going to not drink throughout 2017, inspired by my good friend Tyler Broley, who's also a friend of this podcast.
Can you describe my contribution to this abstination in a nice way? I don't know. I can describe it as it happened. You've often mentioned on the podcast that we became friends because you were drunk, and I said, "Do you want to be best friends?" I want you to from what I saw, me choosing to also go the path of sobriety.
I was like, "Hey AJ, I'm thinking about I'm not going to drink all through next year."
Yes,
and you were like, "Yeah, bro, me too. I'll do it with you." And I was like. Well, I didn't ask.
You didn't ask, but would you say?
But they know that's what good friends do. They're there for you when they know that they need you. Even though you don't
have any semblance of a drinking problem. This is the drunkest I've ever been, and I feel like I'm not that drunk.
Yeah, see, we've had about the same amount to drink, and I seeing you get this drunk has sobered me up. It's something wicked. I had 2 shots of whiskey to begin with.
Yeah,
and I was like, I'm actually going to vomit. I'm going to be blackout drunk when we record this podcast, and I feel fine now.
I'll tell you what, I've had so many conversations tonight about how I'm not worthless. I've had so many conversations about how I'm not going to be lonely forever. I've had so many conversations with my great friends,
with people who are drunk.
My drunk friends about how I'm not. Your classic drunk. I've hugged and kissed all of the people in this room. Maybe not Mel. Mel, if you want me to give you a kiss on the cheek, I will, but you don't have to. That's up to you.
All right, let's not get into this.
I've kissed Holly on the cheek.
AJ,
I've kissed you on the cheek probably before this podcast, before the specific.
AJ, you kiss me on the cheek every night before bed.
I kiss you on the cheek every night while you're sleeping, and then I quietly whisper, "Good night, my little angel."
It's free real estate.
It's free real estate.
AJ, can you please explain the concept of this podcast?
I feel like I've done that 3 times
okay,
already.
well, one for every Hangover movie. There's your segue.
Okay. We watched the Hangover movies, and the reason we got drunk is because we're watching the Hangover movies, which are movies
Actually, it's the other way around.
movies about getting drunk.
Yeah. Well,
Would you agree?
we thought, on our franchise list, it has some of them have like little rules next to them. Like there's a franchise, there's 2 movies, House and House 2, and a rule for that one is it must be recorded inside a house.
Unlike every other episode, which is recorded in the Amazonian rainforest.
It's recorded inside a home.
Yeah. Okay. We've also a better example might be the
Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where AJ has to eat a whole thing of meatballs.
Or the Viewer Skewniverse, where and inspired by mall rats, we have to record in a mall.
Yeah, which I feel like we won't do, but let's see. Anyway, it had.
I'm sorry, Adam. What was that? Mall Cop. We should. I think that might actually be what it is on the list.
Yeah, but anyway, The Hangover had Richard Gets Drunk.
Yeah.
And then obviously we couldn't do that last year, so I thought, let's do it for our first one this year and just have a bit of fun with it.
I want to get more drunk than I am right now.
AJ, you fucking go for it, mate. Like, I consider myself... I couldn't drive right now.
I don't even know how to drive when I'm sober.
Pause for laughs. Pause for laughs. Yeah, I wouldn't trust myself to drive right now, but I feel fine. So it's kind of funny, especially the fact that you're driving the podcast.
I know, right? That's what I was going to say. Is the
episode.
true irony of this episode is that this is one where I don't
See,
know.
AJ, this is why it's good to fuck over one where you're running it.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
a reference to the last episode.
There you go. Take it to finish your drinks, you fucking friends. Yeah, the true irony of this episode is that I don't know if people who listen to this notice, but we more like generally we go 1s and 2s, right? You host one, I host the next one. Would you agree? There have been exceptions.
Yeah, like Godzilla did all of them.
Yeah, you did all of Godzilla, but that was because we decided that.
I'm better at doing the research.
Yeah, you are. I actually want. I'm better at like creating through lines. You're better at creating research.
I'm better at fucking up my through lines and then pointing it out.
I'm better at fucking. Would you agree with that?
No laughter from the audience.
No, I know that was a rough audience.
Too busy trying to finish our drink.
Oh, I'm sorry. They're too busy trying to finish their drinks. The Hangover Trilogy.
Finally. 18 minutes in.
The Hangover Trilogy. I've got 17:59.
Also, I'm eating a pizza.
I'm not.
But I'm so full.
The Hangover Trilogy consists of the following films, directed by the following people, rated the following on Rotten Tomatoes. The first film in the trilogy was called The Hangover. It came out in 2009, directed by Todd Phillips, and has a Rotten Tomatoes score of, what do you think?
Gonna go mid-70s.
79, so high 70s. Actually, probably higher than it deserves, would you agree?
No.
No. This was, of course... that's a throw under the bus. You're right. Drink. The Hangover, the first Hangover was actually, fun fact for people who want to know this, the Hangover 2009, directed by Todd Phillips, RT score of 79%, was the first R16 film I ever saw at the theatre. I saw it with a friend of mine.
Is that on my IMDb page?
No, it's not. I saw it with a friend of mine named Ben. People used to call him Grim. That was his nickname. He's since dropped that nickname. If you're listening, Ben, I'm sorry I brought that up. I remember I saw it as a 16. I'd freshly turned 16 in 2009.
Where did the nickname Grim come from?
He went around a party telling everyone how they were going to die, I think.
Oh my gosh. I love the idea of like real dark nicknames. I once wrote a play where a character was named Crash, and in like the end of the play, it was going to be revealed that everyone called him Crash because he killed his girlfriend in a car accident.
What a great nickname!
And had amnesia and forgot about it.
What happened to that play? Can we make it now?
We could.
Let's do it.
It's called Post.
Post, starring Alexander Jones as Crash. Just kidding. It's not believable for the audience that I would have a girlfriend. The Hangover Part 2.
The studio audience is like keeling over imagining you with a girlfriend.
The Hangover Part 2 came out in 2011, also directed by Todd Phillips. RT score of, what do you think? Like, truly.
Like 43.
It's lower. Do you want to take another stab?
34.
33. Very good.
I just gave a knowing look to the audience.
The Hangover Part 2, I actually watched. The only time I'd watched it before this podcast was as a cam rip, as a filmed at the cinema, because I felt it important to watch. Because I used to do
Because it was the first one was the first R16 movie.
Yeah,
you saw,
yeah,
wasn't it?
exactly.
If I'm not mistaken.
That's more or less what it is. I felt I used to write reviews for all the films I saw.
AJ, you still fucking do that. No one
I
cares.
used to do it on a dedicated blog site called WordPress. You might have heard of it.
Yeah, I know. I used to go on your Reddit account and see where you'd post them and downvote it.
You son of a bitch. I always knew it was you. But I felt it important to watch The Hangover Part 2 to be able to be like, hey, remember that first movie I reviewed? Here's the second one. All right. The Hangover Part 3 came out in 2013. And as something that we've discovered doesn't happen quite often in film franchises, especially trilogies, it's also directed by Todd Phillips. So Todd Phillips directed all three.
I actually went back and looked. I think this is either our 7th or our 8th franchise where every entry is directed by the same guy.
Would you agree that's significant?
Yeah.
Cool. What do you think that is on Rotten Tomatoes?
23.
Very good. It's 20, but I'll give you it. I'll give you that. It's 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. A classic case of diminishing returns and quality of sequels. Before we go any further, Richard, I'd love you.
You know, when you start eating a piece of pizza and you're like, you get most of the way through it and you're like, fuck, I didn't even want the first bite.
I've never
And
experienced
now
that.
I'm stuck with the crust.
Richard, just before we go any further, would you please tell us the stories? What are the storylines of all three Hangover movies? But start with maybe a storyline for what the whole series is about, as like a kind of template.
Yeah. Well, basically, the template for the first film is these four guys. Alan, played by Zach Galifianakis, Stu, played by Ed Helms, and Phil, played by Bradley Cooper, as well as Doug, played by Justin Bartha. They go to Vegas for Doug's bachelor party, and they end up they have a toast on the roof to a good night, and they wake up in the morning and they can't find Doug, who's going to get married in 24 hours, and so they have to retrace their steps to attempt to find Doug, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's this movie where it's people trying to work out what happened to them.
If you could describe a subgenre to this film, what would you say that subgenre is?
Comedy.
Comedy? What? No, that's more a genre. What are other movies that you would put into this subgenre?
Kind of like Born Identity.
Born Identity.
I don't know what subgenre that is. Like, trying to recall.
Mistaken Identity.
I was more going for like
Amnesia.
the crossover between maybe like forgetting isn't necessary, but maybe like it's almost a road movie.
Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Think there's like it's a comedy that is based in like a bunch of characters going on a ridiculous adventure.
To A through B, C.
Yeah, I would maybe put Without a Paddle, which is one of my favorite movies in this category.
All right, and then The Hangover 2 is heavily criticized for doing this, but it's essentially the same plot. Our main characters who we spent the first film with, Stu, Alan, and Phil, are back. They've got Doug with them, and this time Stu's getting married. He's getting married to a Thai woman, and they're getting married in Thailand. So they go to an island in Thailand to get married, but Stu's fiance's little brother tags along, and Alan doesn't like this, and he devises a plan to get him out of the picture by essentially dragging them like he did in the first film by accident, and he ends up dragging all of them instead of just the little brother. They wake up in the middle of Bangkok. They have no idea what happened the night before, and now Teddy is missing. Doug is also not there because he called it early and went back to the resort, and so we're stuck with these three guys again who have to retrace their steps from the night before and find Teddy.
There were like 3 gassy moments in that monologue there.
Yeah.
Sorry. Adam's the only one left.
And then The Hangover Part 3 is a very different story where basically the other main characters are trying to send Alan off to rehab, and they get run off the road by John Goodman, who's playing a character called Marshall, who is who had this massive heist and stole all this gold, but Leslie Chow, who I haven't mentioned yet, who's like a guy.
Very important.
He's in the first and second films. He's just kind of in the first film. He's this weird like random Asian character played by Ken Jeong with a very heavy stereotypical Asian accent. And then the second one, he like teams up with the guys kind of, but to help them out. And then in the third one, it's like he's this international criminal, and Joel Goodman's like, you guys need to find Chow and give me my gold back. And it's this like crime caper kind of film that have anyone getting drunk or getting a hangover.
Yeah. So the Hangover trilogy, thank you very much for that, Richard. Would you agree it is in a weird way kind of iconic with maybe like our age group, like at least at the time?
Yeah, definitely did. The first one's a classic.
Yeah, the people felt very connected to these films, probably because people got more hungover than I did. But let me ask you, Richard, and in your honest opinion, which one is your favourite film and why?
The first is I genuinely love the first film. Mm-hmm. The second film I will defend to my dying day. I genuinely really like it as well. I can admit it's not as good as the first one. I guess because the original was so fresh, and then by design the sequel isn't as refreshing. Mm-hmm. But that's not a problem inherently, I don't think, and that's why I defend it. Is because I think for a comedy sequel, putting the same characters in the same situation in a different location, I feel like is a great setup for a comedy sequel.
Well, that's why I would argue that the second one's probably my favorite of the trilogy. Let me say I'm not specifically connected to any of the three. Yeah. Like none of them particularly mean too much to me. I don't think I even saw the third one till we did this podcast. But I would say that the second one, it gets a hard rap for being basically a rehash of the first one.
It's the Hangover meets the Hangover.
Yeah, it gets rehashed for being. It gets a big. If it gets bad rap. That's what I'm looking for being a rehash of the first one. But I mean, if you take the original movie and setting in a like a more exciting setting, you could argue
more dangerous as well.
More dangerous. The stakes are a lot higher. You could argue that means it's a better film.
Yeah. Agree? Well, I mean. Yeah, it's again. I've said this before that like I would be perfectly happy if they were just like, there's a new film coming out. It stars Zach Galifianakis, Ed Helms, and Bradley Cooper, and they're going on another wacky adventure. And people people would be like, why isn't this Hangover sequel? I'd be like, sweet, Hangover didn't need a sequel. I'm keen to see these three guys hanging out again, and so yeah. More power to them. I mean, they. I don't know if it's a risk or if it's incredibly safe, because it's like you can either say it's risky to just try and do the same thing and see if you can, catch lightning in a bottle twice, or at the same time you're playing it incredibly safe by just rehashing the first film. But yeah, I think it's just as good as the first one. If you just watch that as a movie by itself, you'd put it on par with the first one. I don't think it's a bad rap because it's a rehash.
Sure. Well, let me tell you.
The studio audience is gone. That's why the energy's kind of dulled a little bit as well.
Yeah, I don't know where they went.
I'm here still.
Hey, Adam. The first movie was we're going back to the first movie. It was actually based on a true story from a producer named Trip Vinson, and this was an important distinction to make. He's not a producer for The Hangover. He's a producer who knew a producer from The Hangover. And he woke up after I think it was his own bachelor party in Vegas, and discovered that he owed a lot of money to a strip club, and that idea of being in trouble after you wake up hungover through Todd Phillips, the director, and a few other writers, was eventually created. Todd Phillips added the tiger, the baby, and all these other things. Mike Tyson that turn up in the first film. And I found this quote from Ed Helms, who's one of the three, plays Stu, one of the three main actors in the films. And I thought I would love to hear your opinions on this, Richard, because I think it's a really nice way to describe these films. This is what Ed Helms says on the first film. Well, part of what's special about this movie is that none of the comedy comes from the characters being clever. Like you see it in a lot of sitcoms and movies where the characters actually have a funny sense of humor. That's not the case in this movie. So as an actor, you can really play the intensity and the gravity of the seriousness of the moment and just rely on the circumstances being funny. The joke is kind of that the situation you're in or the way that you're reacting to something as opposed to the characters just saying something witty. What would you
No, it's interesting. Yeah, I've thought about that a lot. Is like in comedy movies and like how often is it that the character is actually cracking jokes? You know.
Yeah.
So it's cool that it's like it seems like it's a conscious decision.
What you'll hear a lot of on this podcast, if I can articulate it properly in my inebriated state, is that these movies, I feel like I should love them, but I don't. And I think what Ed Helms has said about what I just read out there, that it's about a situation, a movie where the situations are inherently funny, so the characters almost don't need to be funny, I think is a good design for a movie, especially because the characters are still funny, right?
Yeah, and it allows the acting to come through as well.
Yeah.
Because they're all very talented actors in their own right. And so you're able to have someone like Bradley Cooper, who's like essentially like a serious actor who's leading this comedy film essentially. But you have him being able to like react realistically to absurd situations, and that's where the comedy inherently comes from.
The first film's original script was actually rewritten by Jeremy Garlick and director Todd Phillips, who added some additional elements such as Mike Tyson and his tiger, the baby, and the police cruiser. The Writers Guild of America, it says West there for some reason, they disallowed their work to be credited due to the rules of its screenwriting critic system, which are only copied and pasted from the Wikipedia article because that feels very familiar to if you've listened to our interview with David Mickey Evans. He mentioned that as well. So isn't that a cool little? This is a living proof example.
It's fucking cool, dude.
Yeah, it's fucking cool, dude. Okay, The Hangover 2 was put into production 2 months after the first film, 2 months before the first film even came out. Because it had really positive screen tests. And as we've talked about, and has everybody in this room seen the first 2 Hangover movies?
I'm really drunk. Yeah, first.
So there was 1 yes, 1 the first, and 1 I'm really drunk.
Right, so let me explain to you guys as well as our audience. As we sort of have covered this on the podcast already in this episode, the major, probably more than any other sequel that committed the same sin, the main problem people had with The Hangover 2 was that it has the exact same story as the first one. It's just set in a different country.
You can play the trailers at the same time, and it hits the exact same beats.
Yeah, but however, this isn't a kind of this isn't something that the people involved in the film are unaware of. So Bradley Cooper, upon the criticism, well, I don't know if it was because of the criticism, but in regards to the fact that the first and second film are very similar in basic plot structure, he had the following to say in a Vanity Fair article, I think. No, it's not in a Vanity Fair article. Never mind. He mentions a Vanity Fair article in this quote that I'm about to read. Bradley Cooper said, "We made the decision early on to keep the same plot structure. I remember we did this photo shoot for Vanity Fair, and that was when we first talked about the sequel in a realistic way. And we were all in the room together afterwards, and we were all saying, here's the choice. Do we stray from the structure, or do we run straight for it? And we all agreed, no question about it, we hadn't earned the ability to take these 3 guys and put them in a new structure. There needs to be a ticking clock. There needs to be a missed night, and there needs to be someone who's gone and a woman who is waiting to be married and a guy who needs to be married."
I think it's great.
That's really interesting that they themselves are aware. And I might be
think they didn't earn it as well.
Yeah. I may be one of the only people in the world that agrees with this based on the critical reception, that I actually agree wholeheartedly with that. And I say, if you're making a movie where the sole theme of it is a hangover, yeah, your second film should be the same thing in a more exciting setting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you want me to give you more?
If you wanted to give me more.
I think that Bradley Cooper is a very intelligent gentleman. Maybe in American Sniper he should have known better. He should have asked Clint Eastwood, let's get a real baby for this scene. I actually think that film, despite its Oscar glory, it's actually quite underrated. Have you seen it?
I have not American Sniper.
It's not. Yeah, it's not.
No, I have not seen it.
It's actually a really good film, and I think it was the lowest rated Oscar Best Picture nominee that year, but the highest grossing, which is interesting because a lot of people said it was just pro-America propaganda, but it's actually genuinely a really good film. Bradley Cooper's really good in it. It's to do with all about post-traumatic stress disorder, and it captures it really well, I thought. And Bradley Cooper gives a really creditable performance. And it's one of those things where it's let down because all that people know it for now is the fake baby scene, and that's a shame.
Speaking of Bradley Cooper, first of all, did you know and I learned this word today, he is a teetotaler. How do you say it, Adam? Teetotaler. Do you know what that word means?
Well, I feel like if I saw it written down or if I heard it pronounced correctly, I might, but go on.
Tea, like you drink tea, teetotaler.
Do you know what that means?
No, go on.
That means he doesn't drink alcohol.
Oh.
It means he's straight edge. He probably draws X's on his hands and vivid. Which is, of course, interesting because he stars in the Hangover Trilogy, which is a movie series based solely around getting blackout
Well,
drunk.
you know what? If I had known Bradley Cooper didn't drink, I probably wouldn't have started drinking again.
That's interesting because one note I've also got written down here is Bradley Cooper is so fucking sexy that as a straight man, I don't know how to deal with my feelings for him. What would you take me off here?
The second film.
It's so good, dude.
When they wake up and they don't know what they're doing, Ed Helms has a Mike Tyson tattoo on his face, and Zach Galifianakis has a shaved head. But Bradley Cooper, throughout the whole film, is wearing this like button-up shirt. He's got like 2 buttons undone. He's just drenched in sweat. His hair's all messy. He's like got 5 o'clock shadow, and it just looks great on him.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who looks as good sweaty as Bradley Cooper, man.
Yeah.
I
think maybe if I wasn't sweaty all the time, it would be like a nicer thing. You'd be like, oh, Richard's been doing some hard work. He's sweaty, but now it's just like, oh, Richard stood up and now he's drenched in sweat.
And the second film, it starts so excitingly. So it basically starts in media res.
So the first film starts the same way.
So that's true. Both the first 2 films start with Bradley Cooper's character, who I would argue is maybe the closest thing these films have to a protagonist, or at least he's always like marketed as the protagonist.
Yeah, he's like
he's not.
He's kind of the straight man.
Yeah. The both first 2 films open with him calling Doug's wife,
yeah.
Doug's wife, and telling her the wedding's not going to happen because
the first one he goes, hey, we fucked up. We lost Doug.
Yeah.
And then the second film opens with the like almost the exact same scene. He's like, it happened again.
It's so exciting.
And she's like, we really fucked up this time. What? How bad? Like no wedding bad? Yeah, it's a bit worse than that.
And that's so exhilarating.
Yeah, man.
Like, it's like, holy shit, what have they done this time? I'm not invested in these movies that much.
Yeah, I got really... I've seen the second one. I've seen the first 2 like dozens of times. And watching the second one again the other night, I was hyped up.
He is very good at what he does. And out of all the 3 main actors of Bradley Cooper, Ed Helms, and Zach Galifianakis, I feel like he's the only one who you wouldn't categorize as a comedy actor.
Yeah.
And this was the first Bradley Cooper movie I ever saw, and so I immediately assumed, he's a comedy actor. But he's not. He's
too handsome.
Yeah, he's too handsome. And so he's been in a lot of things since. And so maybe because of that, he carries a little extra weight to reducing himself to playing this kind of character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Bradley Cooper's fucking sexy. And anyone who disagrees with me can fight me IRL. Let's ask the woman in the room, Mel and Holly. I nearly called you Molly and Hal. Would you, Holly, come here.
Okay.
Come to the microphone.
Okay.
You're going to be on the podcast, Holly.
Holly, Bradley Cooper, tap or gap?
Smash or pass?
Speaking to the microphone, my friend.
It's not a hard question, Holly. It's smash.
I don't know if it is.
Okay, get out.
You're incorrect.
Oh, that's cool. How does it feel being wrong, Holly?
He's attractive. But
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, goodbye.
There's a structure to his body that is unprecedented by any other male in human existence.
Human existence.
Okay. Okay. One thing I want to talk about. We were done with Bradley Cooper for now, but feel free to bring him up.
Let's
later.
talk about how sexy Ed Helms is.
Not at all. Conversation done. Okay. One thing that I noticed about these movies,
They haven't aged well.
yeah, Holly might have something to. She's left the room now, but she might have something else to say on this. These movies are very problematic. Oh, my computer's. Hold up.
Mine's still going. My waveform isn't huge, but you can fix it in post. AJ's always got a bigger waveform than me.
No, we're back. We're all good. These movies are very problematic, and I feel like they are coming out in 2009. They were probably the last politically incorrect films to across the line before like this cultural revolution we're currently in.
Yeah, you couldn't have a film come out today that has a character introduced saying, "No, my friends are really mature," and then you hear in the background, "Paging Dr. Faggot."
Yeah, there's stuff like there's a lot of use.
It's fucking hilarious.
It is funny. I'll admit, but there are a lot of use of terms like gay and retarded and negative.
Gay. No, well, to be fair, both of those words are used humorously. In the first one, he's like, "Well, tell that to Rain Man because he counted cards and he was a retired." And then in the second one, he was like, "You know, Doogie Howser? Yeah? Oh, he turned out to be a gay."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You probably couldn't put those various jokes in movies.
I feel like
now.
Zach Galifianakis should be easily impersonable. Can I tell a quick story about Zach Galifianakis?
Is it that we both vaguely resemble him?
Well, how do you say it? That's Adam says he says Galifianakis. I say Galifianakis.
I say Galifianakis. Everybody says I say Galifianakis.
Galifianakis.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, he and oh my god, AJ fucking just knocked his mandarin lime bitters with his hand, and oh my god, it got like 45 degrees, and he grabbed it. Anyway, yeah, do you know the song "Tonight," or it might be called "Tonight" by Hot Shell Ray?
No.
Tonight, we're standing on the rooftop top of the world tonight. And that song,
Party on the Hollywood sign.
yeah, he goes.
Looking like Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, so he goes, he's like, woke up with a new tattoo, and something like that, and it kind of looks a bit like you, mixed with that Zach Galifianakis. Whoa, we're doing it. Whoa,
yeah, I remember that song.
I saw that video on YouTube one time, and the top comment was, "Wow, did he just rhyme with Galifianakis? Galifianakis?
Galifianakis.
Did he just rhyme with Galifianakis? Wow." And it's like,
No, he didn't.
no, he didn't. He says he rhymes "you" with Galifianakis, and then he rhymes Galifianakis with "we're doing it."
Here's a strange observation: is that I feel like Galifianakis, Cooper, and Helms all became famous because of the first movie specifically, and the first movie specifically is seldom brought up in our current landscape. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like
it's like Avatar. No one talks about it.
Yeah. I feel like maybe in like 20 years, no one's going to talk about The Hangover, and yet it's the.
I guess, comedy movies like that they tend to roll around a lot. But I guess people still talk about like 21 Jump Street and shit like that. Yeah.
21 Jump Street changed the game though. Maybe that's it, dude. That's totally it. As the Hangover series,
Well, it's the last big like R-rated comedy before 21 Jump Street.
that was created in a specific way with a specific voice. It's not meta. It's not like
Well, and I think that the general public's disdain for The Hangover Part 2 adds to the like it falling out of the public, and also the fact that there's a third one that no one saw.
Yeah.
Added to it falling out of the sort of zeitgeist.
It's funny because I have all these trivia notes about the first two movies and none about the third. There was nothing interesting that happened in the third. But speaking of the second film, as you just mentioned then, I've got some stuff to say to you. I'm going to tell you about some stuff. So, as I said, The Hangover 2, it's criticised a lot for copying basically exactly what the first one did. But did you know that out of all 3 movies, The Hangover 2 by far is the most controversial in terms of stuff behind the scenes?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you, and I know you know some of these already, which is
Yes,
why.
because I mentioned a lot of them while we were watching
Yeah.
the film.
So I'm going to say some words, and you're gonna clarify what those words mean.
Okay.
Number 1, the Mel Gibson fiasco. What happened?
All right. So Mel Gibson was cast to play a small cameo role as a tattoo artist, but after
In The Hangover Part 2.
in The Hangover Part 2, and after 4 days of being in the film, he was Zach Galifianakis specifically spoke out and said, "I don't want to work with Mel Gibson." And then apparently there was a large amount of the crew that also spoke out, and so they caved and said it's not a unanimous decision to work with Mel Gibson. We're going to recast him. So they cast Liam Neeson in that role, and then Liam Neeson shot the scene where he gives our heroes some valuable information, and they go on their way. But in the editing booth, they realized that they needed to cut the scene following, and therefore needed to put some more exposition into Liam Neeson's scene. However, Liam Neeson was busy shooting The Wrath of the Titans, and so they had to reshoot it with a different actor. They chose Nick Cassavetes, who directed The Notebook.
Mel Gibson's representatives, not Mel Gibson himself, but Mel Gibson's representatives since went on to criticise the decision to cut him from, or to not include Mel Gibson in the film, specifically citing the fact that Mike Tyson has cameos in the first 2 films, despite the fact that both Mel Gibson and Mike Tyson are reformed drug addicts and who have had dark pasts and dark
Mike
history.
Tyson's been in jail.
Yeah. So that was I feel for Mel Gibson.
Yeah,
it's not that
Mel
I
Gibson would have suited the role as well watching
yeah.
the film.
It's not that I forgive Mel Gibson, but it's that if you're going to cast someone
Oh,
like
and you were so ready to love him in Daddy's Home too.
yeah. It's more that something like in a role such as the one in The Hangover 2 that he could have had. It is weird that they would say no to Mel Gibson, but yes to
Nick Cassavetes.
to Mike Tyson. All right, this next one. I want you to tell me what I'm referring to. What is the smoking monkey fiasco?
So there's a monkey in an actual monkey, capuchin monkey.
Yeah.
In The Hangover 2, and it is seen smoking cigarettes. And Todd Phillips jokingly in some behind the scenes discussion jokingly referred to the monkey getting hooked on cigarettes. Now, Peter, being the horrendous organization that it is, didn't take very kindly to this. And they had to then confirm that there was, in fact, no actual cigarette smoking monkey on the set. He would be placing a cigarette at his mouth, and the smoke was added digitally.
Yeah. Okay, what is the tattoo fiasco?
The tattoo fiasco is, as I mentioned before, Ed Helms wakes up in The Hangover Part 2 with a Mike Tyson tattoo on his face. And the original artist who did the tattoo said, "You can't put that in the film. It's my intellectual property." This was right before the film came out. And this was a huge controversy. It was going to be, "I'm suing you." And it got held up in court. They were like, "Yeah, you're stealing someone else's intellectual property." And it was like, we're going to lose so much money if we don't actually just release the film in a month or whatever it was. So they were like, what we're going to do is we'll change it for the Blu-ray release. We'll edit every single scene of it digitally for the Blu-ray, DVD and Blu-ray release. It was eventually settled out of court for an undisclosed sum.
Very good. Thank you, Richard. This one's a little obvious, but what is the racist Chow fiasco?
It's just Chow. The character of Chow is said to be incredibly racist. He's the accent and just everything about him is very racist. Ken Jeong, I believe, has said he doesn't think it's very racist, and he finds doing the accent very cathartic. Because
correct, yeah.
He's like, I'm the one doing it, so obviously if I found it racist, I wouldn't be doing it. But sort of because the character's so far into the abyss of racism that it's essentially parody. And so for him, having people come up to him all his life and be like, and throw racial slurs at him, do accents and all this stuff, it must be cathartic to be like, you can't make fun of me because I'm doing it so badly to myself.
Very
That's
good.
my interpretation.
Yeah, that's basically correct. What is the war photo fiasco?
The war photo fiasco. There's a famous.
Is that a guess? Everyone drink.
I went to cough into the mic so there'll be like more obvious. But I was like, what are you doing? There's a very famous. I can't remember the specific details of it, but there's a very famous photo of a soldier executing an older Vietnamese man. I believe he's Vietnamese. Basically at point blank range. He's pushing a gun against his temple and he looks distressed. And the story behind the photo is actually quite interesting. That it's like this man had actually committed some horrible crime and like needed to be executed or something like that. And but the guy holding the gun in the photo basically ruined his life because the whole world was against him because he's shooting an innocent man. But I believe it was like an actual staged execution kind of thing. And it ended up, basically, it haunted the man for the rest of his life. And the family of the man in the photo forgave him and kept in contact with him for the rest of his life. And I don't want to say he ended up killing himself, but I feel like that might be what happened. I think he like hid away in Australia for like the remainder of his life.
Right.
That all needs to be fact checked. Anyway, the first two Hangover movies end with them finding a photo, a camera or a camera phone, which has photos of the night before. So the second to last photo we see over the credits in The Hangover 2 is a staged recreation of this famous photo. And Todd Phillips, and a lot of people said that shouldn't have been in the film. It was very insensitive. And Todd Phillips sort of said, yeah, maybe that was a lapse in judgment.
Very good. What is the stuntman fiasco? Do you know? It's very simple. You could probably guess it.
Died, didn't they? Or
They didn't die. They
injured,
got injured.
Yeah.
And sued them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Louis Vuitton fiasco.
You must remember that one.
Louis Vuitton just got pissed at them for using a fake Louis Vuitton bag in the film. However, that is 7 fiascos.
Yeah.
So
I remember the tattoo one coming up, and it was like a month before the film came out.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it on Reddit, and people were like, "Fuck, this is actually huge. This film might not come out." It's like it was like a tentpole release, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that while people may say that The Hangover, the original Hangover, is the best film in the series, the second Hangover is the one you'd make a documentary about. You know, that's the one that has the most
Bill
interesting...
Clinton visited the set.
Bill Clinton visited the set. Like, all these things are so interesting about this film, and yet that's, you know, not even remembered as the main Hangover movie. Okay. One of the things I think is... one of the problems I think with this film, with these films, is, and we talked about this while we were watching them together, is that the reason I feel like I don't connect with them so much is that out of the 3 main characters, all of them...
What?
No, but all of them have some like debilitating character flaw that makes them completely unlikable.
Yeah, so I said before about how Bradley Cooper is essentially the straight man, but like, looking at the like archetypes, you'd say Stu's the straight man, but he's Ed Helms' character, but he's so far the straight man that he's again borders on parody, and so it's like he's such a square that like he's too much a stick in the mud, and then Alan's too much of a wild card that Phil is like the in between. I mean, like between all 4 of them, Doug would be the straight man.
Yeah.
Doug's the most normal character, but he's not in 90% of the 3 films.
But all 3 films he's relegated as to the like side character of the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that got me thinking while we were watching it, and I actually came up with this little theory. I feel like I've sobered up a lot since the start of this podcast, but I didn't feel it.
Nah, I just feel real gross. Because of the pizza, not because of the alcohol. I had a bit to drink, and I was like, I feel like a pizza. And then Adam was like, nah, we've got food here. And I was like, and he said it might take longer. And I was like, should I order a pizza and we'll see which one gets here quicker? And then so he made up some food and I ordered a pizza, and they were about the same time actually, to be fair. He made 2 batches of food, and it came in between the first 2 between the 2 batches.
I just had another shot, Richard.
I think another one's been poured for me as well.
Mel did it for me. It wasn't me. I did it.
Thank you. What were you drinking tonight, AJ?
I'm drinking. What? Can you pass Mel? Could you pass me the bottle you fed me from?
Royal Stag.
I'm drinking Royal Stag whiskey. What are you drinking, Richard?
Something you won't experience.
I'm drinking Tennessee Fire.
Oh my gosh, Mel just said I'd never experience a stag night.
I'm joking.
Much like the subject matter of the first two films.
I'm drinking Tennessee Fire, Jack Daniels.
I don't know if you've heard of the small kind of independent...
The small penis in your pants, AJ.
Oh, we'll get to that in a second. I don't know if you've heard of the small independent, hidden gem of a movie called Pineapple Express. Have you heard of that movie?
I've heard of The Interview.
Yep. Have you heard of Pineapple Express as well?
Yes.
Yes. I think Pineapple Express...
I think Pineapple... Look, get a load of this fucking moron.
Adam, I'd be interested if you've seen the movies to have your opinion. I'd say the Pineapple Express is like a better version of the Hangover movies.
AJ, that's what you sound like.
That's fine.
That's it. That one shot, it put me in my bloody funny mood. Here I am.
You're in mean
hilarious
Richard
quips at AJ's
Well, you know what?
expense.
Maybe you're not the only one who can do hilarious quips. You know what? Hangover 1 is just a shit version of Pineapple Express. What movie came out first? Answer me that.
Pineapple Express.
I don't think it did. I think... Was it?
Was it?
Yep.
Can you look it up, Adam?
Pulling out a phone. That's also
That's
that
on
was
the
my
drink.
suggestion for the drinking game. Was someone makes a claim that a phone is then had to pull out to prove it or disprove it.
No, okay, so
Pineapple Express, I believe, was like 2006, 2007, and
I feel like it was maybe it was 2008 at the latest. Yeah,
Nice.
There you go. So it was before Hangover, just 2009. I don't know. A Pineapple Express is similar. It's a similar design to the first Hangover movie. It's very
people under the influence, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, say that again, Richard.
People under the influence, wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, which I feel like is the Hangover, but the Pineapple Express is a lot more heart to it and a lot more extra. And I do have a lot of catharsis for that style.
I
of
would
film.
say though that if you're looking at what each film attempted to be, it's not like The Hangover tries to have a lot of heart and fails. The Hangover is a lot tighter as a comedy, I think, because Pineapple Express does fall into the Judd Apatow thing of being maybe 20 minutes too long and having a very stretched out emotional third act where your characters sort of decide they don't want to be together and then agree to be together again, which is in all of his films and is probably his most common complaint.
Fair enough, but I don't know. I feel like I haven't seen Pineapple Express in a long time, but it did feel like the version of that, the movie that maybe something like The Hangover wanted to be. Let me ask you this, Richard. In these movies, a lot of the time, all three, Ken Jeong's character by the name of Chow. He is Leslie Chow. He appears naked, dick and balls several times throughout throughout the whole trilogy.
You don't see his dick and balls in the first one, but he's naked.
Do you not? I think you see it. It's not focused on, but you do see him naked.
Well, I mean, I guess I wasn't looking that hard at his dick and balls, AJ. Can I get a what from the audience?
What?
Thank you.
My point is, okay, in the second one, they draw specific attention to it.
Yeah, they taste his dick.
Do you want to explain that, or should we just leave that out for
Just
those
leave it.
who have seen it? And in the third one, the post-credit sequence
Has him fully nude.
has him fully nude. I've got a question for you, Richard.
Yeah.
Is your dick bigger than Chow's?
My dick's bigger than Chow.
Yeah,
How big is your dick, AJ?
it's bigger than Chow's,
Oh, that's good.
but it's not that big.
On a logarithmic scale, where would it lie between Chow's dick and Chow?
It is probably maybe. You go first.
Did you know that on a logarithmic scale, the midway point between a plank, which is the smallest observable distance, and the size of the known universe, the midway point is the width of a human hair.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But that's on a logarithmic scale, which, increases exponentially.
No, it's an exponential scale. Logarithmic's the opposite way around.
What's the opposite of exponential?
It increases as you go smaller.
Really?
Like
I see.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see.
yeah,
I
yeah.
see.
But yeah.
Um.
But it's still an exponential increase.
So your
It's
dick,
increasing.
your dick's the size of a human hair? I don't know what you're telling me.
AJ, look, I've tried to keep the length of my penis secret on this podcast.
You've tried many times, and I'm trying to
It comes up a lot.
finally get it out of you.
You're not. Well, you're just leaving that out there.
Look,
Are you looking at your notes, or are you just
I'm
You're just
desperately
pussing
trying
out
to
of-
change the subject.
you're just like, hey, here's an offer to try and make not only you, my co-host, but the rest of the audience feel uncomfortable.
There's one other person. The
But the
girls
people
have gone to
fucking
bed.
listening, you
Oh.
idiot.
Hey, fuck you, Richard. Fucking asshole. Be your dick's the size of Chow's. That feels mean. I'm sorry. Ken Jeong, if you're listening. It's fine.
Your dick's bigger than Richard's.
One thing that I thought the third Hangover movie, which we haven't talked about a lot, the third Hangover movie, missed
an
out
opportunity.
on. Missed opportunity for the third Hangover movie is that there's, until the post-credit scene, which is sort of treated as kind of like a joke, there's no hangover in it. It's just the repercussions of the first hangover come back to bite them, basically. That's the plot of the third film.
Yeah.
Now, I thought, wouldn't it be cool
No.
if, when John Goodman's character, Marshall, captures the main
It says
character,
you have 3 days to get chow.
you have 3 days you could chow.
And I'm taking Doug as collateral.
Yeah, they're taking Doug as collateral. And the way they ensure that the characters don't
Like
track them, they drug them. And Stu,
and,
Phil,
and drop them somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stu, Phil, and Alan wake up with a hangover from being drugged by... Like, they don't do this in the movie. I'm saying this would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Would
It's
you
a missed
agree?
opportunity. Yeah. 100%. Like, it's like a deleted scene that never existed. You could put that scene into the film and then just have a couple of references to them, like their headaches or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, have the exact same film, but you've just got this like extra bit of like, oh, this is how we're tying it in. They've got a headache because they're hungover. I'm using that in quotation marks because they were drugged, not drunk. But yeah, like, I think that's a good idea, and it's a good way to, like, the film doesn't have to be them retracing their steps.
Yeah.
It can still be the like hunting chow. But I think just that, like, the memory gap and waking up, like, just to have that iconic scene from the first two. It's staged almost identically of them waking up and finding each other and finding what's different.
Bradley
but, like,
Cooper's all, like, sexy waking up.
yeah, but have them
Sweating profusely,
wake
but
up in
looks
the middle of the
better than
desert,
anyone
they're
else.
tied up, and it's like, it's later in the day and they're not quite sure if what happened really happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a missing scene from the film.
Yeah. And I don't know, I would have, from like a symmetry point of view,
Yeah,
it
definitely.
would have felt better to have that in there.
Yeah, especially when the second film's so close to the first one, and in terms of like structure and plot, to then have nothing of that in the third one seems weird. Like, if the second one was like a midway point between the first and third,
Yeah.
it would make more sense. But because it's like one and then a carbon copy of one, and then the third one's so different.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, like, in a way, it's kind of cool. But
Yeah, that's the thing, is that people are like, according to Rotten Tomatoes, and I know you feel this way as well, the third one is like vastly inferior to the first two. And
it's just not. Honestly, it's just not as funny to me.
to me, I'm not a big fan of all three movies. So to me, the third one was like, oh yeah, this is an interesting way to continue on the story.
To continue the franchise.
Yeah. But before we get to that, before we get to continuing the franchise, we're going to talk about titles. We talk about titles a lot on this podcast. I don't have too much to say about these titles for those who don't remember.
Well, it's interesting that they're called Part 2 and 3.
So for those who don't remember, the titles are The Hangover Part 2, The Hangover Part 3. Rich, I know you have particularly interesting feelings on the use of the word part.
Well, I just think it's funny because it's like just if it was just called The Hangover 2, that's like, this is a rehash. Whereas part implies this was always part of the story.
Yeah.
Like, the story was planned out this way. And as far as I'm aware, Todd Phillips and whatnot were just like, yeah, it's like The Godfather 2, one of the greatest films of all time. It was The Godfather Part 2. That was the first time a film used Part 2.
Is that true?
Yeah. In fact, maybe fact check this. I might be pretty confident on it, but I'm pretty sure it was the first film to actually use a numeral and for its sequel rather than just having a different name. Yeah, and so it was like this kind of nod to that, The Godfather Part 2, because it's saved for very prestigious films. And so it's one of those things that's like, it's a very subtle joke, but it's just kind of funny.
So you approve?
I like it. It's so easy to have or to not have, but it just makes it slightly funnier.
Yeah.
If it was like Chapter 2 might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think The
Part
Hangover
2 is
2 would have been fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Is that The Hangover 2 would have been fine, but you're just putting a little extra joke in there. Adam's nodding approvingly. Is that Part 2 was the first film to use a numeral in it?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I don't have anything else to say about titles. Despite the fact we
Because
talk
sequels,
about
it's interesting. Like looking back at the history of sequels, especially like that we've done this as like a franchise. That we do this franchise podcast. We haven't got it yet. Maybe we will one day. But the Rocky franchise was like that's become now like, you know, there's a reboot and they had like the distant sequel and everything like that. But that was such a joke of like, where is this going? That after Rocky 3, they were like, oh, what's next? Rocky versus an alien. And it's like, you're only 3 films in. Think of how big franchises get these days.
Yeah.
That like back in those days, the fact that like they were making it was either they're making a third one or they'd made a third one, we're going to make a fourth. The people were like, what's next? Rocky fights an alien? Oh, when are they going to stop making these? And then someone's like, wait a minute, that's a good idea. And they wrote Rocky fights an alien and that became Predator.
Nice. Very cool. That's really cool. And like let's aim for Rocky with our minds and
Or Predator.
the universe trying to give us Rocky. Okay. We're coming to a close. Before we do, let's just give this franchise a wee continuing. Let's continue this franchise. This is a segment on our show where we take the franchise we've been studying, take the franchise we've been
Discussing.
take the franchise
I don't like to use the word review.
we have been reviewing, and
Don't.
review.
Don't you fucking dare, AJ.
Hey, fucking fight! Kick me in the nuts, Richard. I bet you won't.
Do you want me to kick you in the nuts?
Come here. Climb over the table. Mel, what are you doing?
AJ, pull your chair up.
I don't want you to kick me in the nuts.
You made me fucking get up.
Yeah, joke. So I won.
Adam, can you kick him in the nuts from where you are?
Don't kick me in the nuts. I'm drunk. I'm not able to comprehend.
You don't want to hurt on his sharp nuts.
This is a segment where we talk about. This is a segment where we try and squeeze more money out of the Hangover franchise by pitching a sequel. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. Well,
I can go first if you want.
No, I'll go first. The idea I had for like the, I feel like I had 2 ideas, but I can't remember one of them right now. But like the kind of going for the pure idea of what like a Hangover 4 could be if it came out now, or like it'll probably work better in maybe like 10 years. But no thanks, I'm good, man. I just got offered some sausage rolls. And
I'll have a sausage roll, man. Yeah, fuck yeah, man. I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna eat it raw. No tomato sauce. I'm gonna eat it raw.
It's still cooked, AJ. But going for the Hangover part, here's my pitch for the Hangover Part 4. These characters obviously don't really keep in touch anymore after everything that they've been through. But one day, Doug dies.
Very good.
And they have to like, and it's they go on some kind of mission to scatter his ashes, and they'd end up, So I'm sure Doug would have it as well somewhere that like, you know, he wants to have his ashes scattered in a certain place. So you actually, it's kind of like Due Date, which has Zach Galifianakis in it as well.
Also directed by Todd Phillips.
Yeah, and it's like the mission across country to scatter some ashes, but you have the characters sort of, they're back together, they haven't seen each other in like maybe like 10 years, and they think let's go on this one last mission together. Let's have one drink. What could one drink hurt? And then we just get a classic Hangover movie. We can do them as scheduled order. You ignore the third one. They're just 3 movies with the exact same plot.
Yeah.
And they would wake up in the morning and they can't find Doug's ashes. And then it would be kind of cool if it ends with this moment of them like finding out that they'd actually already scattered them last night. Mm-hmm. They find like, you know, the whole thing would be like, where's this container? Have you seen this container? And they finally find the container. It's empty. And they'd find out they'd already scattered them. And they scattered it off the roof of Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas where they found Doug at the end of the first film. And it's this kind of moment of like, this was the most important thing to happen in any of our lives. And in a way, even though we don't remember saying goodbye to our friend, that kind of means more because that's not remembering any of that was so important to all of us.
Yeah. That's cool. That's better than my idea. I don't want to say my idea now.
That's one of the best. This is one of the best. That's one of my like truest sequels I can think of, like that I've actually done, where I've tried to pitch a genuine sequel to a film.
I just thought it'd be cool if The Hangover 2 was a point-and-click game.
Even The Hangover 1 as well.
Yeah.
I don't know why you see The Hangover 2 specifically.
Well, I mean, because it's in a more interesting climate. Like, point-and-click games aren't very popular anymore, but I used to love...
Well, to be fair, AJ, you're not popular.
That's true. No one likes it. All right. That's it. No, I don't know. I thought that it'd be interesting to take the Hangover story and put like there is a
because it's like the check your pockets. What's in your inventory? There's this address. Talk to this person.
Yeah. For those who don't know what a point and click game is, the people who won't know what point and click games aren't very popular anymore.
No, you're trying to explain it.
They were games that were sort of like each scene would be like you wouldn't physically move around in the scene. You'd go into your inventory and find objects that could interact with the scene. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah. So like often your character would just be standing there. You'd have an inventory and there'd be a bunch of different things you can click on around the room and you can either examine them or interact with them in some way or take them.
Yeah, and Hangover being a story about a bunch of guys who don't remember what they did, I feel like that would be a valuable way to
the idea
explore
and
that idea.
like you'd wake up and then you'd check your surroundings and there'd just be all this weird shit.
Yeah.
And then, level 2, you're at breakfast and you check your pockets.
Yeah.
And then you've got all these weird receipts in your inventory. And so, you've got a stamp for a monastery or something like that. And then in the next scene, you bump into a monk and you're like, do you recognize this? And then, that makes sense because it's very linear in its progression of like, you find this, it leads you to this. They give you a clue to lead you here.
Thank you for explaining that better than I could.
That's okay, I don't know you're drunk.
I'm just saying that The Hangover would have been better as a point-and-click game. The least popular genre of game in today's day and age. Adam,
as a text-based game that just comes up as like, you wake up in hotel room and be like, grab Doug, you cannot find Doug.
Yeah. Adam, do you play any point-and-click games?
I played them a lot as a child. The last one I played is Don't Shit Your Pants.
Yeah.
It's like a throwback to DOS games.
Cool.
And it's a point-and-click game where you try not to shit your pants.
I don't know if the microphone picked that up, but Adam said he played a game called Don't Shit Your Pants, where the object of the game is to not shit your pants, and it's a throwback to DOS.
I never really played what's it called, point-and-click games, but I did love the Curse of Monkey Island.
Curse of Monkey Island is probably the most famous example. I would also throw
That's
out
the third one or Escape from Monkey Island.
The Monkey Island trilogy.
Yeah, the Monkey Island series. There's
series.
4 of them.
Yeah.
And they made a 5th one, I'm pretty sure. But the third one, I fucking love, and I'm currently in the process of like about to like get a PC, and I'm so excited to just download some version of that game and play it through again.
Other point and click games I would recommend just quickly if you want.
Grim Fandango.
I
only know that because in the Curse of Monkey Island, there's a bit where he goes into a like shack, and there's a skeleton that's wearing a vest, and there's a button on it that says "Ask me about Grim Fandango," and you go to take it, and he goes, I don't want people always asking me about Grim Fandango.
The other games I'd also recommend would be The Broken Sword. I think it's a trilogy, but just play the first 2 on PS1. Probably the best story in a point-and-click game that I've come across. Terry Pratchett's Discworld also had a couple of point-and-click games.
Do you know it's the fucking...
Really cool.
Yeah,
Do you know it's the
they are really
fucking hardest point-and-click game I've ever played?
cool. What?
Mission to fucking McDonald Land.
Have we talked about this before?
We haven't talked about it on the podcast, but I'm sure I've talked about it with you in person because that game is the fucking bane of my existence. And honestly, someone fact check the year if you can.
Mission to McDonald's.
Mission to McDonald Land. Can you check when that came out on? It might know because I'm pretty sure it was like New Zealand exclusive. 1999. So that game came out in 1999. I was 6 years old, and I got this game. AJ, you're not listening. You're hiccuping and you're typing. So this game came out.
I had to make sure my computer was still on because I was worried.
And I was like, I played it all the time when it first came out, and I just could not play the game. I don't know if it's I didn't understand how a point and click game worked, but there was you had to somehow you had to rescue the four
What you're talking about.
Mission to McDonald Land, AJ. Fuck.
Why are we talking about Mission to McDonald's?
Because it's a point and click game.
Why are we talking about point and
AJ, shut up.
That one shot has just fucked AJ up.
You have to rescue the four McDonald's mascots. One of them was stuck behind a palm tree, which was behind like a river of lava. And to get there, you had to cut down the tree. To cut down the tree, you needed an axe from a chicken nugget. When you tried to get it, the chicken nugget would say, AJ, shut up. I'm actually really invested in the story. So the chicken nugget would say, we no trust you. Prove you're a friend first.
There was dialogue in this game?
Yeah, and
Mildly racist.
I had no idea how to convince the caveman chicken nugget that I was a friend. And so every few months, maybe like once or twice a year, I would pull this game out and just try and work out how to do it.
What platform was this game on?
It was PC. It was a CD-ROM that came with a Happy Meal. And so I would pull it out and be like, oh, I'm 9 now. I'll be able to work this out. I'm 10 now. I'm every age from 6 till 2012. 13 years after I got the game, I was chatting about how it was impossible with our friend David Corios and a few other people.
David Corey's been on the podcast, but we should go see his shows.
And someone mentioned that you have to give the chicken nugget the axe. And I was like, what? Oh, you have to give the chicken nugget whatever. And I was like, what are you talking about? And
I thought you got the axe from the chicken.
Yeah, no, I screwed up my sentence then, okay? You had to somehow... And they basically told me, oh, this is how... Because I don't think I ever understood how to play the game because it's never explained to you the instructions of the game.
Is this still the Hangover episode?
AJ, you know what it fucking is. You're trying to be funny, so just shut up.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being funny, okay?
And then
difference.
I raced home, and it took 13 years, but I finished Mission to McDonald Land.
How'd you feel?
That's the hardest game I've ever played.
Do you think?
Now that I know how to play it, I could finish that game in 8 minutes.
And
it took me 13 years.
Very good.
Hashtag speedrun.
World record progression of this.
It took 13 years. Richard took 13 years to complete it, and then a month later, I was able to complete it in 8 minutes.
Well, we've been talking for a while now.
Yeah, because you keep on interrupting me. And
I don't think that's the
AJ,
reason.
you've got hiccups, and it's fucking annoying to listen to.
Hey, Richard.
AJ, you're going to say some fucking dumb shit where you're like...
fuck you fucking
you
asshole.
either go and you try and be real mean.
I'm glad I watched Home Alone instead of Die Hard.
Oh no, we're going to finish it. I don't even know.
You finish your drink if you're playing the drinking game. AJ...
What?
You're
Say
actually
it.
such a piece of shit. I'm glad you're moving cities.
Don't tell them.
I'm sick of living with you.
This is fucking...
I hate you. I hate everything you stand for.
Listen to me, you piece of shit. I'm going to
AJ,
kill you.
While I disagree with what you say, I'll defend to the death your right. Just shut the fuck up.
And this... Listen to me, you fucking piece of shit. If you ever cross me again...
Oh my god, have you ever fucking crossed me?
I'll slit your throat in your sleep, you piece of
I
shit.
would fucking...
You're the biggest
stab
piece of
shit
shit
out of
I've
you.
ever met. You fucking... I hate you so much. You're the worst person I know.
All right, should we do franchise?
Yeah,
roulette?
let's do franchise roulette. This is
Have you got the Google Doc up of the film?
Do you want me to do it?
I'll do the random number. You do the list.
Okay, so this is a segment of the podcast where we have a Google Doc of a bunch of franchises listed.
How many films?
Make up a number. It's probably that 200 and something.
I got 300.
Where's Holly? She's
She's throwing it.
I'm probably gonna throw up tonight.
Game was too much.
That's fun. That's amazing. She's actually throwing up. Okay, film franchise Fortnights. We've got a new Google Doc. Everybody, did you say that?
170.
What? 170 is American Pie.
I've got. Let's go American Pie. Do you want to just watch American Pie?
Let's watch American Pie, man. I'm so.
We can finally have this fucking discussion for real.
Let's do it, man.
AJ and I have a very large bone to pick
I have a huge bone.
about American Pie.
My bone.
AJ,
My bone is like 9
you
inches.
have to sit and wait.
I got the
for
biggest
American
fucking
Pie
bone in the
because
out of the
AJ
male.
has. You guys just wait. AJ has the dumbest fucking opinion about.
It's not my opinion.
No, it is, and it's fucking.
a mistake
It's
I
fucking
made.
stupid. All right, that's been. You do the sign off.
You do it. You fucking asshole. I'll fucking
dickhead.
kill you.
All right, that's been Cult Pop Show. This film franchise Fortnights. I'm sorry this one got so aggressive. Tune in next week. We're going to be watching the American Pie films. There's what?
Fucking piece of shit. I'll fucking.
8 or 9 of them.
There's 8 of them.
Yeah. And yeah, we're going to be chatting about those next fortnight. Sorry. We
I'm
check
gonna
out
kill you.
Cult Pop
after
Show
this
on
finishes.
YouTube, SoundCloud, and Facebook. Or you can email us at cultpopshowmedia@gmail.com. So yeah, just get amongst it. Let us know what you thought, and we'd love to hear your feedback.
Do you treat me like you've treated me again? I'm gonna make sure.
And I'm gonna get up, and you can just be left to the ramblings of a loudmouth malcontent.
Here's the thing about Richard Martin. What you don't know, Richard Martin. He was born into wealth. He was born into a family that believed he was the sunshine flying out his arsehole. But let me tell you something about Richard. The guy doesn't know how to wipe his own butt. I've seen him. He comes out of the bathroom and he's like, "Don't do it right," and I'm not going to help you. Every time he's like, "How do I do this?" And I'm like, "Listen, man. It's not my responsibility to show you how to do this." Every time he asked me, and eventually, I gave in. And started showing him how to do it. And now he's more of a man than he'll ever be, and it's thanks to me. Leave me alone. This isn't about you. This is about me. All right, goodbye, everybody.